What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sjogren, here as always with my main man and brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What's up, E?
My brother, I've missed you, man. It's been a little while. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. That was last week, I think it was. Time is flying, man. I can't believe we're already in the middle of July. But life is good. We're talking off air. We're all booked up for a trip to Puglia. And now I'm just counting down the days, and I was sharing this on our mastermind call. So our insurance for the villas pretty much threatened to drop us if we didn't replace the doors. And so we had all of our new doors arrive this week, and they're all being put up and installed. And again, it was an unexpected. So going back to like what we talk about all the time is like the larger you go, sometimes when unexpected happens, you just need to have money ready. Because again, if you have a single property and you have to change the door, it's X amount of money. But when you have a 40-unit apartment complex and you have to change all the doors in the apartment complex, it's a different kind of expense. You know what I mean? So again, it is what it is. They look beautiful. So I'm super, super stoked. And then you realize that, you can argue with insurance, but there's not really a point because they do whatever they want.
Monopoly, man. It's a rigged game.
Yeah, especially down in Florida, I mean, like with the hurricanes and with the storms and everything else, it's not really something that you have much options on. They're like, either you do this upgrade or...
I have a $50,000 hurricane deductible on our Orlando house. I'm like, what am I paying you for then?
Yeah. No, yeah. It's the only thing you're paying for is if it gets completely blown out, and then you only pay or 50 grand there. But life is good, man. What about you guys? We're having the event up in Boston, which I'm very sad I'm going to miss next week. But
yeah, getting ready for that. We've got our 7-figure boardroom second event of 2023 coming up here, hosting it at beautiful Ferncroft Country Club that I'm privileged to be a member at. So it'll be fun. And then we're closing on our new house in a week and a half, man. So I'm pumped. It's been 4 months in the making to get this deal done, but can't wait, man. We'll be smelling that ocean breeze and taking in those ocean views before I know it. So I'm pumped.
I'm excited for you guys.
It's interesting too. I was going back in preparation for this upcoming event, and we did a goal setting workshop at the January one. And I had JM go in and kind of transcribe and bullet point out everybody's goals. And one of the ones that you put actually was for you and Sasha to go to all the F1 events. So you ticked one of those babies off this year. Went to the Miami event.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and we're actually trying to see if we could squeeze in the one in Italy is at the beginning of September. And we're trying to squeeze in that one, but we're not getting in time. So that's annoying. But hey, shout out to Daniel Ricciardo that is getting back on the grid. So
yeah, is he racing for AlphaTauri? Did I see?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
Nick DeVries didn't last very long, which is unfortunate for him. But at the same time, that's one of those industries that, like, again, and this I think in a way we were talking about this also with one of our guys. You should look at your STR business the same way an F1 team looks at their drivers. Meaning, if you have anybody on your team that is not performing week in and week out, in this particular case, one of our guys was complaining like, "Oh, my cleaners is not doing great, but I understand and this and that." It's just like, nah, man. Like, there is no excuses, and like F1 is the perfect example of that. You like are in the top of all kind of drivers, but they still have expectations. If you can't live up to those expectations, they don't care what's going on. They don't care.
They treat it like a business, just like everybody here should.
They don't care. They're like, look, man, like, we thought you were going to be great. That's why we brought you on. It's been like now 9 races, whatever the number is, and you're sucking. We're sorry.
See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, anyway, I'm excited for our guest today. Speaking of business minds, right? So Today on the show, we've got Luca Zambello with us, and Luca is the co-founder and CEO of Jurny. It's an AI-driven hospitality platform that seamlessly automates operations and guest experiences through vertical integration and connectivity. As a former host and operator with more than 12 years of experience, Luca brings a wealth of hospitality knowledge. He's a renowned Forbes contributor for his expertise and industry acumen and has been featured in Entrepreneur, Bloomberg, Business Insider, and other publications. He was recently chosen as an advisory board member for entertainment and hospitality management at California State University, Fullerton, where he delivers lectures as a guest. Furthermore, he's received multiple awards and nominations in the hospitality field, including the Titan Award and the American Best in Business Awards. Most recently, he was listed as one of the top 10 notable entrepreneurs in Los Angeles by LA Weekly. That is quite a bio, my friend. And congratulations on all the success and welcome to the show, Luca.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Pleasure to be here, man. I've been hearing a lot of good things about this, but before we dive into all things Jurny, why don't you walk us back on your journey into STRs and hospitality and then how Jurny evolved out of that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was born and raised in Italy. I moved here about 14 years ago now. Couple of years after I moved here, I was like trying to figure out ways to make money and hustle while I was in school and studying, or at least like claiming that I was studying. and one of the things I came across was very interesting. This was super early on Airbnb. Airbnb was also not that big, and I realized that through customers of mine that people were doing luxury rentals all through brokers for luxury villas, for short-term rentals and events and stuff like that. And there was almost nothing online, especially Airbnb at the time. There wasn't listing any luxury villas. So I launched a landing page for luxury homes here in LA. I created a small database through this broker and was one of the first one doing AdWords for that. Like a 24-hour business put together. And in the first year, I did $1.2 million in revenue. So, and it was just me and another person, basically, like I had an assistant. So that hooked me into the industry. Short-lived business. Like 12 months after I launched this, there was like 15 competitors that popped up out of nowhere. Luxury Retreat, One Fine Stay also, I don't know if you guys remember, but we're a pretty big company. One of them actually got acquired by Airbnb at a time. And then everyone started listing properties there. So I started managing properties. I pivoted the business into a management company. I grew that management company into almost 300 units across 5 different cities in US. And in the process of doing that, basically, I ran a management company for over 6 years. And I started realizing my obsession is in automations and efficiencies. And I wanted to figure out a way, especially you guys are familiar with our industry. It's so hard to manage a lot of listings across multiple different cities, even when in the same city, because they're not centralized, right? You don't have a centralized operation. So you really need to have a system that helps you streamline things and automate as many processes as possible. Like check-in is one of them, right? Now, maybe it's a lot more standardized and it's easier to have an automated check-in, but at the time it wasn't. And the PMSs, especially at the time, didn't support any of this stuff. And the biggest challenge we had in doing this was the fact that the industry was extremely fragmented. So many different solutions start coming up, but they didn't work well with one another. And the problem still exists today. Is if anything, it got even worse. So that's where we decided to start developing a lot of software in the house. We did that for 2-3 years, to the point where we decided to become a full-time software company and pivot away from the management, and decided to launch Jurny to try to change the game on how I say property management systems are built, but it's a lot more than a PMS. It's about a full tech stack, having one single system, almost like an operating system that allows you to do multiple things and it's seamlessly connect with all the tools that you need, versus having to kind of put different pieces together. I like to compare to the early PC industry, where everybody had to build their own PCs and you had to run them on DOS, not with that good UI UX. Things have improved a little bit, but you still are have to build your own PC and you cannot buy a MacBook Pro off the shelf. That's what we're trying to achieve.
So just before we continue down the software road, two questions. One, did you wind down the property management business, or did you sell it, or how did you exit that? And then two, just to confirm, so did Jurny start because you basically built it for your business and then you start offering it to other people? Just so I'm on the same page.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we actually still have 100 properties. We're either not renewing management agreements or we're selling them. So we sold some of them. We keep a small amount, not because we want to be in the management business whatsoever, but simply because we don't want to lose touch of what it means to be a management company. And I think it's like a key differentiator for our software company being a management company first. We don't want to scale that and maybe eventually will completely disappear. But to answer your question, we did build the software for us at first only, not with the idea to bring it to the market. And actually we learned a pretty hard lesson that there's a big gap between building something for yourself and then bringing it to the market, because your people know how the system works. And even if the technology is amazing, there's one thing having a technology that works and it's amazing, and there's another thing making sure that everybody understands how it works and apply it. And that was a pretty interesting journey to go through that process.
Yeah. And I love that point, because I think that brings up a point. It's one of the top questions that I see in all the vacation rental groups, especially with a lot of newbies. They're like, what is the best property management software? And my answer is one of two ways, which is one is like, it's whatever works best for your business. But the reason for that is what you just said too, because it's like, we can build you the most amazing property management software, but if you don't understand how to use it, or if you don't use it well, it doesn't matter what property management software you use. It's very much what you use and how well you use it that really can show you how good a property management software is. Obviously, there is some that are better than others. That's why, to me, I'm like, whatever your business is, see whichever one gonna work best for your business. But there is also the other element, which is what you said right now, is any of them work if you know how to work them. And most people don't understand that component.
Yeah.
And I also love the fact that you guys are remaining in the management, because I think that's something very important in a rapidly changing industry like ours. Because again, if you were in management 3-4 years ago and you started doing a property management software 3-4 years ago and you completely have come out of the business, there's a lot of shit that happened in the last 3 to 4 years that it's going to make a difference.
Absolutely. And I want to address one point you just mentioned. And I think that's actually an industry problem, the fact that these tools are very hard to use. And that is one of the things, first of all, super well said, and I couldn't agree more. But that's what we made it almost like a challenge for us. And we understood that this industry needs to be simplified. It's so complicated. It's insane that it's this complicated, right? And we thought that we were going to do it much quicker than we have, but it's not easy. It's not easy because it's so fragmented. We're like relentlessly working 12 hours a day for now 3 years straight on simplify this. But that's the goal. And I think is what's very important is that there's going to be a company that eventually is going to simplify this. We hope to be that company, but there's going to be a company, and it could be us or someone else, that is going to eventually simplify this. And this company is going to win big. Because right now it's still a niche to understand how this technology works and to leverage it the way you're supposed to. Very small percentage of the industry knows how to do that. Technologies are disruptive when the masses can use it and understand it quickly. You see that with every single industry. Whoever comes in and simplify the industry without compromise to the end product, or minimal compromise to the end product, they win, right? It happened in the PC industry, like I was mentioning before, like creating like actual windows where people knew how to click icons versus like having to know how to program to use a computer, and ability to bring them to everybody's homes. That improvement brought computers to now in everybody's pockets, right? And I think eventually this is coming for our industry. And AI, I think, is going to be a really good component that is going to help simplify a lot of things. And I think it's two components that are going to fix this. One is AI, and two is vertically integrated system, which I can go in details on what that means. But that's the approach we're taking. I see a lot of people have noticed this. So we're definitely not the only companies working towards this, but the approach of PMSs until now has been wrong. That's the way I see it, at least.
There's so many different angles that we can go at from here. So I agree with the fact that you guys are still managing properties, I think gives you, it's from experience running a coaching business and running a portfolio of substantial size. It is no small feat to do two things at once, for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that it helps keep you in the weeds and in the pulse on like, what are the challenges that hosts are facing now? And these are the things that I encourage a lot of the newer folks. E talked about it earlier of like, when they're getting started, you know, what PMS should I use? What's the perfect PMS? And I always start with like, what is your end game? What is your goal? Like, if you want to get to 5 properties, fine. We can, very simple tech stack. If you want to get to 100 or 500 or 1,000 or whatever your goal is,
Yeah.
we need to think long-term, because I've switched PMSs 5 times,
Yeah.
5 times. And it's brutal
Yeah.
every time to like migrate all the reservations and learn the new system.
Learn the
and
new
train your
system.
team on the new system.
Exactly.
It's painful. So what are some questions, I guess, from your perspective in growing your company? What are some things that people should think about when they're choosing a PMS?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And you brought up good points. You understanding where your end goal is going to be, it's absolutely a must. Are you doing this as a full-time thing? Are you trying to scale it as big as it can get? If that's the case, you really need to start thinking long-term. And I think one of the things, even to choose tech stacks in general, like, is selecting your partners in not necessarily where, especially depending on what the size of your business is. If your business is small, you want to bet on the businesses that are changing the game. Maybe they're not 100% the same level of some other more established companies, but you know that in the futures are going to be. So that's an important thing that I think companies need to think about it in PMs. Because it's about to change. And I think the way we knew how the PMS industry and all this complicated tech stack has been working until now is going to change. And that's changed in every industry. And so look out for that. And then I think more importantly, understand that there's some technologies that are coming up that are really going to change how things have been done until now, like AI, for instance, to mention a small one.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was going through the Jurny site earlier, and there's so many different facets to cover when you think about creating that vertically integrated solution. You know, everything from the basics of channel management. The booking website now is pretty standard, but you've got some pretty niche integrations between like Wheelhouse for pricing, AutoHost for guest screening, Breezeway for property care. But then like your whole IoT hub for like the automating access and the controls of the property. Like, there's so many different things to think about in your tech stack. So if we want to like break that down a little bit more, just to help people conceptualize, because it is super fragmented. It's like each company is very good at one thing. And then you need to integrate all of them correctly. Otherwise the whole thing falls apart.
That's exactly correct. And that's exactly the problem of, and I say like the PMS ecosystem today. And I don't want to blame PMSs, but it made sense at the time. But the problem is that you have so many vendors right now and so many per category that taking the approach of a marketplace, which is what everybody has done, it's going to create this current ecosystem, which is very fragmented and not working well, because you have to be API connected with 7 different pricing softwares, with 6 different access control systems, versus taking a completely different approach. If you think about it, any vertically integrated technology, what they do is they choose 1, maximum 2 vendors per categories, and they go as deep as possible, and they try to customize that API connection so that it works perfectly with their system. It's not a small approach. It's complicated. It takes time, right, to to build. But once you're done, the whole system is going to be a plug and play. And that's the vision of that we have. But forget even about our vision. Why did I have this vision? It's because I was a PM and I understand the limitations. I was spending 80% of my time making sure that the connections between technology was properly working versus running my business and making sure that I was always up to date on what's the best technology for what. Right? Especially if you start scaling and you need more. It's one thing if you only need a pricing software and a guest verification system, channel manager, and PMS. It's already decent tech stack, but it's 4 pieces. But what if you start wanting to connect your logs, your minutes? You want to start connecting the breezeway of the situation, right? To manage your cleaners, a payment processors, the channel, a booking engine, like all those things, like to start adding up. Now you have 12 different connections that you have to manage. That's absolutely insane. And what if you can have a system that you come in? I don't know if you noticed, but our system starts for free. If you want a PMS and just a connection with Airbnb, it's free. We don't charge you. But our package goes up to $129 per unit per month. So it's not by any means cheap, but it depends on what you need. And we understand that you need to make it a one-click process, which we're not there, don't get me wrong. We're not just one-click process for upgrades, but we're like a few months away from that. And I think we're probably the only company in the market that is there. To make it one-click process, you want pricing? I don't want to give you the freedom of choosing, which sounds bad, between different pricing software. I'm telling you, hey, I test them all, and I know Wheelhouse is the best. I'm probably doing good advertising for them. Because I test them all, and guess what? They give me a custom API so that now their platform is fully integrated with ours, and you can do 90% of their functionality in our platform. No connection needed, is a one-click process. That's the future. That's where things need to go. You need a pricing software, one click, you upgrade it. You don't need it, one click, you downgrade. That's it. That's how it should be, but it's not right now. Like you see what it is. You guys been through it. Mm-hmm. And as a property manager, that's what you need because your needs are going to constantly change. Even if you have a plan, guess what? That plan is not going to work. So at one point, you might be managing 100 units, at one point 50. But you need to be able to switch very fast. And maybe then you go from 50 to 100 overnight. How do you have a system that keeps up with that? You cannot spend 3 months or 6 months to implement the proper system for when your business needs change. It's ludicrous.
So the way that you structured it, and I was just going through the pricing page. So like if you get a certain tier that has Wheelhouse and Breezeway, you basically just pay you guys, and then they don't have a bill from Breezeway and everybody else, just one bill, and it gives them the whole tech stack in one. Which the accountant brain in my head is loving that because it just eliminates the amount of transactions and bookkeeping every month.
And you have to upgrade, downgrade. You don't have to worry about agreements. Like you're locked into long-term agreements or stuff like that. None of that. It's like upgrade, downgrade whenever you want. It's like just like a lot of other SaaS industry developed into.
Yeah. So it's more a la carte, and then people hearing your cost shouldn't be thinking it's that cost plus everything else that I'm currently paying, because you take over most of those payments in a sense. So that's what you're looking at. Yeah, what are the things in your, obviously there's a lot of really cool stuff, but like as a manager, what are those things that you have in here that you are the most proud of?
Honestly, the AI component, I haven't talked about that, but I truly believe, I mean, we're one of the first people, we were mentioned by Skift as one of the few companies that have brought real breakthroughs into that technology. I think a lot of people are talking about it, but not doing much with it. We have tools that work today. We have passed the Turing test. For people that are not familiar with it, it means that people can have conversations with our AI and they don't know they're not talking to a human being. To handle customer support, we're about to release an even greater release on that side, where if you think about how much people NPM spending in operations and guest support, if you can really streamline that and automate that, or 10x the output of a single agent, and you don't need a 24/7 support, because now you have someone during the night that can answer everything and then make sure that you have all the appropriate answers and then knows how to escalate things. that's what we're proud of. But that's what I think also other people need to be looking at. Whatever you're doing, do not underestimate AI.
So when you mean that the AI that you guys have can run most conversations that people don't understand, walk me through, like, are we talking about any level of conversation, or and then does it integrate, for example, if you use, so we use Breezeway. So if I use
Mhm.
Breezeway messaging, does it respond to my Breezeway messaging as well?
So we've built it to answer guests specifically through. So it's obviously directly connected to Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, and all the channels we connect to. So when guest sends you a message, the AI knows the reservation details, knows who that guest is, knows which units is staying at, knows the geolocation of the units, so it can give local recommendations without training that person. And then you can give a dedicated FAQ for that specific property
Gotcha.
or even that specific unit. So ask, where is the microwave?
Yeah.
Or I cannot find XYZ, and it will tell you exactly where it is and knows how to answer, and it will have.
So
full-
does it
full
scrape
conversations.
it? Does it scrape it from Breezeway? And sorry guys, this is super selfish for me because this is does it scrape it from the Breezeway file from the property, or is that a separate FAQ that you have to make for each one of the properties?
No, it's a separate FAQ that we have built inside our system, but a lot of informations can be gathered also from our partners as well.
That's very cool. Yeah, and I love that. I love the technology integration, because that's one of the things that as we're growing and as we're scaling, we are needing is a single dashboard for the heater. Like, how do we
Exactly.
check the heater? How do we check the AC? How do we check the locks? How we check the things? And my poor team is having to go through all different kinds of things. So I definitely understand that. Kind of to pivot us a little bit, because I love also the story that you went from doing something and then managing, and you grew that company to 300 plus units. Give us some of your tips, because a lot of our listeners are in that management side and they're looking to grow a business, maybe not to 300 units because that's across 5 cities, that's quite a bit, but like, what are some of the things that you used that helped you grow that business to that size so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I came to a few conclusions after many years into the management, and I think local management companies have an advantage all the time. We went broad. If will go back, I say go deep, don't go broad. You understand one market. Of course, differentiation is good because one market could switch. But with all the data we analyze, every people we have ever talked to, when you're focused on 1 or 2 markets maximum and you specialize in those markets, you live and breathe that market, you're going to be more profitable than other companies, because you're going to know that you're going to get the best deal for cleaning, you're going to have best quality control, you're going to understand those type of guests. What do they need? Because each city is different, each location is different. Mm-hmm. And Airbnb is all about experiential. So like, people want to stay there instead of a hotel because it's like custom experience. Which brings my second point, is like really focus on experiences. Like, you can see a tree house in Florence that it makes 70,000, 80,000 in revenue a year, where that's more than an apartment in Florence that maybe is worth on paper 5 times more makes in revenue. So like, experience can make, and you can see it even like that they have some destinations, like sometimes they just modify, they make it like an upgraded tent and put it on Airbnb, and they make it just as much revenue as somebody else that has built a building. So on the experiential side, I think there's a lot of opportunities. And the third piece actually is, and it's obviously not something easily accessible, but there's ways to do it. And when I wanted to go deeper into the management, I said, like, where the money is really at is owning. Master lease doesn't work. Management is a nightmare. I'm not trying to scare people away from management. It's doable. You can do it, but it's a lot harder. It's slower to start owning, but if you master it, there's infinite opportunities. Especially, and this is where I had experiences in multi-units. So for instance, we had experience on taking even motels and converting them into like nice little Airbnb apartments. Capital improvements is very little. It's a commercial piece of real estate, so it's easier to get loans not under your name. And there's ways that you can really, by just sometimes improving the efficiency by bringing a lot of these automations that we had, and bringing more revenue, because now you're opening into a whole new market, which is Airbnb. You can refinance that property a year after for a lot more money, get your initial investment out plus a lot more, and you can keep repeating that possibility to infinitely. These are some insights that I've learned in years, that if I wasn't busy 110% of my time with the technology side of things, that I would.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think that is, I mean, first of all, I love anybody that says the subleasing or master leasing is not the way. Because I've always had feelings. To me, it's always been, it's a means to an end. People that create entire businesses on it, we see it differently. So it's not even like, it's not even an argument that I would want to have like with our good friend Sean. Like, I wouldn't go toe to toe with Sean, because I'm sure he's very set in his ways and he's created a beautiful business. To me, it just doesn't make sense long term. I just can't wrap my head around this. So that's just what my truth is.
You don't build wealth. You build something that you can make a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a cash machine, but it's
it's
not
a cash machine. But,
exactly.
but like, it depends on how you want to see it. Like, and you see it like over and over. I've known a lot of these companies that they were venture backed, and we were one of those companies. We raised venture money to try to scale a management company, and like, we couldn't. I don't know someone who did pretty successfully.
I would love to talk about that, actually.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about, like, I don't think we ever had anybody on the show that's raised venture money to grow a management company. So why don't you share a little bit about what that experience was like? What were the requirements? Like, how long? Like, what was that like?
I think it just at one point, and this is the time of Lyrics, Stay Alfred, Sander. We were in the same boat with them, and at one point, you saw from one side this Airbnb industry exploding, and so I think VCs wanted to try to see what was the approach to get a piece of it, right? And so there's been many companies, including ours, that they tried to scale that as quickly as possible to become a venture-backed business, but it's not a venture backable business, if that makes sense. At least not that exists until today, because it's not super extremely scalable. You can scale it, but it takes time. Look at hotels, how long they took them before they were able to scale, and it's extremely capital intensive if you want to scale. And if you look at like any companies that tried to scale fast, they lost track of quality. They lost track of the microeconomics for each market, which meant that they were not profitable, right? And so that model, I just don't believe is going. It's probably ever going to work unless there's going to be some crazy technologies that is going to help those companies. But it is a business you can build with also capital slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered your
question. No, it does, because to me, that is always what my thing is with people that grow and scale really quickly, in terms of being somebody that has been in the game and is very concerned about quality. That is one of those problems that I always see. To me, a hospitality brand is very hard to build quickly, because it's very hard for you to understand quality. And it's very hard for me, the thing that I've learned over time is, as we're scaling, it's finding quality people that care. And so to me, that is the main hurdle that I look at people that are like, I grew 300 units in 18 months. I'm like, where did you find the quality of the people? Because it's taking us, I mean, I'm not saying you'd have to grow at the scale that we're growing, because I can see that, like, I'm like, we could probably grow a little bit quicker. But to me, that's been the biggest thing that I see people being like, I'm gonna buy 8 hotels this year. I'm like, across 8 markets. I'm like, where?
It's a replica of what happened to WeWork in the office sharing space. Exactly. These companies were just riding the same wave, us included. I honestly thought that we could. We said, well, we're going to double down on technology. We're going to be able to do it. I mean,
Yeah. I'm sure if robots
And
can
kudos if
it-
somebody can do it. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that it's absolutely impossible. I hope somebody's going to prove me wrong, but it is hard. And a lot of these other founders that I met are extremely smart people and are very knowledgeable about the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not agree with you. You can scale it, and you can scale it big, but you cannot scale it fast.
Yeah.
That's what I can tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it has to take time. For sure, it's not a venture backable business because they want you to at least 2x the business year over year. And you can do it for a little bit, but then eventually you get to a point where you have to slow down. You have to understand the market, understand your guests, understand that people are working inside of your organization. And if you don't, you're going to encounter big problems.
Yeah.
100%. Well, first, before we get into the last question, I want to acknowledge you and thank you for coming on here and sharing your wealth of info and for building a really cool product, quite frankly, that I think can help a lot of people.
Appreciate that.
Where can folks learn more about you and Jurny?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So it's basically my name and last name. And then obviously you can take a look at our platform. Anybody can sign up. If you have an Airbnb, it's like one-click process. That's one of the first one-click process that we made. You can just sync your Airbnb accounts in minutes. So you can go and take a look. It's free for the basic package, and so.
Awesome.
And what does the basic package give you? Like if somebody signs up with the basic package, it gives you what? Like
limited access to the AI component, which if you have less than 5 units, you're probably not going to even use all of it if you're using it. Automatic messages, the whole PMS component side of things. That's basically a full PMS. We're just not going to give you connections of things like Breezeway, where obviously it costs us money, or if you want more channel connections, you have to pay for a channel manager and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Well, the last question that we ask all of our guests is, what is your number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
Well, I don't know if this applies just to short-term rentals, but I think my way of life is to, whatever you decide to do, just try to be the best version of yourself you can be, and constantly improve yourself. Just don't stay still. See, how can I do it better? How can I do it more? How can I be a better version of myself? So that's my recommendation.
I love that. And I think some people might brush that off, but I feel like it's so important if you really apply that principle to yourself, and especially to your business right now, where, maybe your bookings have slowed down. Maybe it's not as crazy as it was the last couple of years. Like, how can I improve? How can I do better? How can I be better? And then reflect that back into your business. So great words of wisdom. Luca, thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Folks, make sure you go check out Jurny and have an amazing week. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for having me.
Ciao, guys.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.